So thank you very much, each one of you, for joining. Good day to everyone, and really like to thank, starting with Dr. Mahajan, Dr. Duggal, Kiran, Luan, for giving MeraDoc this opportunity to host a fundraiser. Thanks very much. This is Sudhir Mathur. I'm one of the founders of MeraDoc, and just give you a very, very brief, introduction to MeraDoc. It's end-to-end telemedicine platform that is being created, focusing largely on a patient-doctor relationship. That is a general practitioner, who actually eventually becomes a family doctor. And we believe this has been missing in India, or has been missing at least for the last couple of decades, and to revive that. And clearly, needless to say that the family doctor will provide access to any super specialist that may be required by the patient, the customer, as the need may be. It will also connect to pharmacies, hospitals, radiology labs, pathology labs. Having seen this, with this COVID second wave that hit India in a very devastating way, we have changed our focus a little bit at the moment, temporarily, to provide access to the masses in India on COVID management. So very accomplished doctors that have been on the stream virtually, connecting with hundreds, thousands of people on everything from prevention, vaccination, cure. And it gives us more confidence that virtual Medicare is something that is India, with its vast and huge population, definitely needs. So that's where we are on MeraDoc. It's mentored a lot on a daily basis by Dr. Mahajan, who all of you know. And it's absolute pleasure of mine to introduce Dr. Mahajan. I know that all of you know who Dr. Mahajan is, but still I will speak a little bit about him. A very eminent radiologist, medical entrepreneur, and a pioneer in the field of MRI in India. A graduate of Maulana Azad Medical College in Delhi, a postgraduate in radio diagnosis from PGMIER, Chandigarh, and he went on to do his fellowship from MRI from Anderson Cancer Institute in Houston, Texas. And that was in 1987-88 on a Rotary Foundation scholarship. Known as an interventional radiologist in the late 80s, his interest in MRI led him to set up one of India's first superconducting MRI systems in New Delhi in 1991. And today he runs a chain of high-end diagnostic centers in North India by the name of Mahajan Imaging. Providing services in radiology and imaging, nuclear medicine, molecular diagnostic, and genomics. Their research division, CARING, which stands for Center for Advanced Research in Imaging, Neurosciences, and Genomics, is well known for its work in the field of artificial intelligence and genomics. He's a gifted teacher, a postgraduate examiner, and an avid researcher and speaker at many national and international conferences, including RSNA, ECR, ISM, RM, and SIM. He was the first radiologist to ever be appointed an honorary radiologist to the President of India, which was in 1998, and was awarded one of India's highest civilian awards of Padam Shri by the Government of India at a young age of 42, and that was, I think, 20 years back, for his contribution to the field of imaging in India. He is currently the President of NatHealth, Healthcare Federation of India, an industry body which has members from the entire healthcare ecosystem of India, and the past national president of Indian Radiological and Imaging Association and the Indian Society of Neuroradiology. Over 200 radiologists have been trained in his centers in newer imaging techniques, especially MRI, dual energy, spectral CT, and PET CT. He's also a social worker and chairman of Tamanna, an NGO which runs schools for multiply challenged in New Delhi, a member of the Rotary Gift of Life Trust, which provides cardiac surgery to children with congenital heart disease. He has also been on the board of governors of Sri Ram College of Commerce and Delhi Public Schools, and also director on boards of a couple of banks, Indian Overseas Bank and Punjab National Bank. So very, very this thing. And Dr. Mahajan, thank you very much for being here today and putting this whole thing together. Actually, he's been leading it, and all the work that he has done in India, especially in the recent past. And there's a lot of gratitude we all have for his contribution to COVID management and his active and generosity with his time. So over to you, Dr. Mahajan. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sudhir, for a rather long and generous introduction. At the outset, I would like to thank you, and especially Dr. Anup Duggal, who's become a close friend in the last few weeks, and for setting this up, bringing it together. And it's really a pleasure, a singular honor for me to welcome and introduce a very dear friend of mine, a class fellow from my medical college days, and someone who, when you look at, you wonder that how could someone be so transformed, so gifted, and so caring, and we as ordinary doctors are just left behind. She has transcended to a different level, and it's a pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Kiran Martin. She used to be Dr. Kiran Money during our college days. She's the founder and director of ASHA Community Health and Development Society, ASHA for short, which is located in Ekta Vihar in RK Puram Sector 6. And most of the Mulanians who are on the call today would know RK Puram in New Delhi. She, of course, studied at the University of Delhi's MAMC, a batch of 1977, just like me, gaining a Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery degree. She then specialized in pediatrics at Lady Hardinge Medical College within the same university. In 1988, Dr. Martin heard about a cholera outbreak in a South Delhi slum. Her faith in humanity and values inspired her to use her talents to help the poor and marginalized. And so she went to the slum, set up a borrowed table under a tree, and began working, saving lives. As Dr. Martin learned more about the hardships and deprivations faced by the people there, she started to devise ways to address their problems. After some time, and with the growing cooperation from the grateful community and the Indian government, she acquired like-minded helpers and began to form ASHA Society. Now, more than 33 years later, Dr. Martin is an influential figure in the field of slum development, and ASHA's programs are benefiting around 700,000 people in around 100 slum colonies of Delhi. That's a huge, huge number to be able to impact. Dr. Martin's early model of urban health has developed to meet the changing needs of slum communities and achieves consistently impressive results. She has established a number of healthcare programs to address maternal and child health, reproductive health, chronic disease management, tuberculosis control, geriatric care, and treatment of general outpatients. Her healthcare model departs from conventional delivery of services to working in partnership with the communities themselves whom she serves. The slum housing model that Dr. Martin developed in the 1990s has been widely praised and accompanied innovative work in women's empowerment and primary and secondary education. That was followed by a highly successful financial inclusion scheme devised in partnership with the Ministry of Finance, Government of India, and most recently, Dr. Martin's groundbreaking work to improve slum children's access to higher education has seen astonishing results. In fact, I've been lucky enough to meet one of her students who went on to go to the Oxford University and win laurels for the country there. In 2002, Dr. Martin's achievements were recognized by the government of India when she was awarded the Padma Shri, one of India's highest civilian awards, by Mr. K.R. Narayanan, the President of India. I was lucky enough to be on the same list as Dr. Martin for the award. And we were proud Mulanians who went together to get it. In addition to ASHA's work being awarded best practice by UN Habitat, it has also been praised, studied, and replicated by organizations in many countries. Dr. Martin's work is supported by formal and registered Friends of ASHA societies in Great Britain, Ireland, and the US and Australia. Numerous overseas visitors have visited ASHA and accompanied Dr. Martin on slum visits where they saw firsthand the improvements in the health, empowerment, and financial status of people in ASHA project areas. These visitors have included some luminaries, the Prime Minister of Denmark, Lars Rasmussen, Prince Edward, Earl of Wessex, UK Prime Minister Theresa May, Australia's Prime Minister Julia Gillard, Governor General of New Zealand Anand Satyanand, New Zealand Prime Minister John Key, Australian Foreign Minister Julie Bishop, Canadian First Lady Sharon Johnston, US Congressman Mike Thompson, Australian Ambassador for Women and Girls Natasha Scott Despoja, Governor of Victoria, Australia Alex Chernov, First Lady of Japan Miyuki Hatoyama, as well as cabinet ministers from India, Ireland, UK, Japan, New Zealand, and Australia. The list is endless. In addition to appearances before the US House of Representatives and the British House of Commons, Dr. Martin has been an international speaker for many years. She has lectured at prestigious universities such as Harvard, MIT, Stanford, University of Melbourne, and Cambridge, and spoken at numerous international conferences, as well as given talks at companies such as Google, hospitals, schools, and Friends of ASHA events in various locations across the globe. In 2001, a book titled Urban Health and Development was published by Macmillan after being written by Dr. Martin in collaboration with Dr. Beverly Booth and Dr. Ted Lancaster. In addition, the work of ASHA has been cited in publications, research and case studies by institutions such as the World Bank, University of Melbourne, Tier Fund, and others. Kiran, Dr. Martin, it's indeed an honor and a privilege for me to invite you to speak before a very, very enlightened audience of professionals, of those whose heart is in the right place, of those who know what it is to give and to change another person's life. Over to you, Kiran, and all the very best.
Thank you so very much, Harsh, for your most generous introduction. And as he said, we've been the best of friends for years now. And especially during the COVID pandemic, he was on national television almost every day. And I think that every time we saw him on the screen, not just me, but, the entire batch, our hearts would swell with pride. And of course, his eloquence, his ability to communicate, and his ability to be able to provide information to the lay person during a time as difficult as that was admired by us every day. So thank you so much to Anoop and Sudhir for making this event happen. Luann is also there. She's the treasurer of ASHA USA. We'll be talking about her in a bit. But I'm going to just give you a little glimpse of the work of ASHA through a PowerPoint. So I'm just going to do a screen share. So this is a wealthy neighborhood in Delhi, Anand Niketan. I'm sure many of you know where it is. The current population of Delhi stands at about 18 million. Most of you know the city well. Many of you have seen it grow and change over the years. The per capita income of Delhi is 3 times the national average. And it is the second richest city in India after Mumbai. Out of this huge population that lives in the city, there are about 4 to 5 million people living in these sorts of shanty colonies. They number roughly 1,500 and they're spread all over the city. There are other areas as well that are classified as slums, such as urban villages or resettlement colonies. So all in all, there are about 50% people living in slum-like conditions. But the work of ASHA is focused on shanty colonies like this one that you see here in this picture. Just to remind us all that people living in the slums contribute very vibrantly to the city's economy. They are very hardworking people. They're all on daily wages. The men they go to construction sites, or they work in factories. Women work as household helps. And so there's a variety of jobs that they undertake, and I don't know where the city would be without the labor being provided by people who live in the slums. I just wanted to tell you where they're located, because Anup was pointing out that you can't always see them, but they could be by the side of large open drains that run through the city. There are lots of slums that you can actually see from a top floor of a 5-star hotel, and they might be found by railway tracks. I know you've seen that when you travel on trains, and they might well be right next to or in the middle of a wealthy neighborhood. This is a closer look. So, when you really go inside and you stand in front of a slum hut, what do you really see? It's a temporary shelter. It's not more than 30 to 40 square feet. It averages about 5 to 8 people, and it's constructed with whatever is at hand. Could be mud, plastic sheets, as you see here, cloth stitched together, cardboard, any other discarded material. Access to clean water is very limited. One hand pump, and that too a really shallow hand pump, serves an average of about 800 persons. And there are absolutely no individual water connections. The residents use public toilet blocks, and there's one latrine for about 125 people. So you can imagine, open field defecation by the railway track or any open area is a very common thing in slums. And overflowing drains. I mean, you see this drain in this picture. If it rains, it's definitely going to overflow and the water is going to go into people's homes. And that's a very common thing that you find. And there are no real garbage disposal points. And so people living in the slums just throw their garbage on any open space that they can find. And there are no roads in slums in general. And only about 15% of slums have street lights. So most of them live in the dark. And electricity connections have only happened in recent times. So about a quarter of them have now got some form of electricity connections. But when I actually started my work, they would be tapping electricity from overhead wires, and the wires would be crisscrossing everywhere. And it was really common to see, fires and electrocutions. And when I started my work, I actually began in an open space, and I was surrounded by slum huts like these. There's every inch of land is occupied by slum huts. So it's not very easy to find, spaces where you can construct buildings and things. And I remember we did our surveys back then, and the infant mortality rate in the slums was 100 for every 1,000 live births, and the child mortality was 150. And everyone was going to quacks and local healers for treatment, and deliveries were being conducted by untrained midwives or by relatives, you know, and it was extremely common for people to take loans from loan sharks for healthcare because, you know, they just did not know how to navigate the public hospital system. Law and order is also very, problems are very common. And one thing really important to understand is that there is no elected leadership in a slum, you know, there's no democracy. So there are self-styled slum lords who are in touch with the major political parties. And because every slum dweller, every adult slum dweller has a right to vote. And so they become a very important group for the city. So that was August 1, 1988. And there was a cholera outbreak. I don't know how many you remember, but that's when I actually started my work. That picture is of me back then. And this little girl in my arms is my daughter, Prerna, who's now, of course, married. She got married in 2019, you know, and you might remember Madan Lal Khurana. I was so horrified by the conditions that I saw when I entered the very first slum and went deep inside that I felt compelled to invite him and ask if he could do something to, you know, make a difference and improve the conditions living in the slums that I was working in. And he actually turned out to be extremely helpful. And then in the years to come, he became a very good friend and a good ally of the work of ASHA. This is just to give you an idea of where all we are located. As you can see, we're all over the city. And there are many slums that, you know, if you see the names, it's going to be hard to dwell too much, but almost everywhere where one of you might be living, there may be a center that's not very far from where you are, because that's how widespread we are. Now, I just want to talk about our healthcare program first before I tell you about what we're doing with COVID. I just felt like in order to have a sustainable healthcare program, in order for our mortality rates to fall, it would have to depart from a service delivery model. So what I did is in due course, I trained hundreds of these women who live in the slum to become community health volunteers. And I also trained hundreds of women in midwifery. So this combination of community health volunteers and midwives, I actually divided for every 200 to 300 slum households, there was one community health volunteer. And she became a wonderful health promoter, educator, a provider, and someone whom they could rely on for advice. And then she became a barefoot doctor, and, you know, from a woman who was just sitting at home and who had no identity of her own, suddenly these women became barefoot doctors in the communities, with earning a great deal of respect from people all around the community. I won't go into all the problems they faced with the men in the community. There were many, but, you know, we just continued our journey of training these women. So this is a picture of our primary care program to just briefly show you how on the left there is this ASHA center. So we have 15 such centers, and they're all located in the heart of the slum. They're not anywhere outside, because we felt it was really important for us to have an impact. And so they're right there, and they're staffed by ASHA team members. And then there are the community health volunteers that I told you about. And then there are also other volunteers from the slums. I have this picture of myself. This is a recent picture, but I just brought it up because I wanted to tell you that when I started my primary care work, I have seen patients from open spaces. I have seen patients from tiny slum huts. I have seen patients from dirty, stinky rooms on the top of a public toilet block, just because there was no place to see them anywhere else. I have seen them in a variety of settings. It was luxury when we were able to get buildings like these to be able to have a well-appointed healthcare program. So as Harsh mentioned in my introduction, I started off with maternal health and child health because the maternal mortality was 750 for every 100,000 live births. It was shocking, and they didn't really have any access to antenatal care. So my team and I, have been providing them with antenatal, natal, and postnatal care. And gone are the days when there were untrained midwives and so on. All deliveries are conducted in hospitals or by trained midwives, and they all get antenatal care. I will bring up an impact slide in a few minutes from now. And then, of course, the babies, we used to vaccinate all of them because in those days, the government had it was a sketchy vaccination program, but now they've got really good programs. So we collaborate with them and fill in the gaps. And so, growth monitoring, vitamin A, and making sure that the children don't fall into malnutrition, supplementary nutrition, and so many other elements of our child health program that I won't go into the details of right now. And then, like Harsh mentioned, I've also got a chronic disease management program. You'll be surprised, that about 20% of adults in the slums have hypertension, and about 10 to 15% of them have diabetes. And so it's actually a huge problem. And we also have a geriatric clinic because there really is nowhere for the elderly to turn, and we take special care of them. And there's a huge prevalence of tuberculosis. Now, the actual prevalence of tuberculosis in the slums is in India, you may have heard, it's quite high. It's about 190 or so cases for every 100,000. So, but in ASHA, because of the tuberculosis control program, it's almost vanished. We just have a few cases of tuberculosis now in our communities. Now I'll come to secondary care. This is our ASHA polyclinic, where you will receive a very warm welcome. Some of you may have seen it as you passed by, but should you decide to visit ASHA, we would be absolutely delighted to welcome you here, where you can be received by the ASHA team, and they will tell you a lot about what's going on, and then will accompany you to one of the ASHA sites for you to be able to see all the different programs. This is Dr. Sharmila Lal on the left. She's a consultant, and she's actually OBGYN, but she does a lot of other stuff as well. She lives in Safdarjung Enclave, and she's been with us since 1990. I don't know if you guys know her. And then this is our lab on the right, where we do most of the basic investigations, and from our peripheral centers, samples are drawn and brought to our main lab. This is Dr. Saxena. I don't know if you remember him, Dr. N.C. Saxena. He was the head of the Department of Radio Diagnosis at Safdarjung Hospital from 1995, I think it was. 1994 to 2000. Yeah, that's what he was, the head of radio diagnosis and imaging. So he's with us now, which is fabulous. We are just so happy that he can help us and help so many patients. And then you have, I just brought up Dr. Gulati's Imaging Institute because the two of the most eminent radiologists in our batch have been so deeply involved in helping ASHA, which is a matter of such great pride. Because all the patients who require CTs and MRIs and other kinds of investigations have been seen by Dr. Gulati for years on end and free of cost, so it's amazing that, all we have to do is refer, and, he just does them completely free of cost. That is his way of contributing to ASHA. And I just wanted all of you to know that. And it's just very close to the headquarters, but people from far and near come to get their investigations done from him. So we don't have a hospital of our own, but we've linked up with various Malanians and others for tertiary care. This is Dr. Bhalla. He's the head of DDU, ophthalmology at DDU. And he comes to ASHA and he does eye camps for us. And that's one of the camps he brought his entire team. And similarly, when patients go to DDU, they also go to GTB, where Dr. Jolly is there. She takes care of the eye patients, and Dr. Vivek is there. Her husband, he's a general surgeon there. They're all, very senior and heads of department in their various hospitals. And so it's wonderful to see how, the entire Molanian family comes alongside our patients and helps them in such wonderful ways and pays really good attention to them and provides them with really good quality care. I'm going to talk about COVID. So, I won't go into the first wave, but just to say that we were there right in the first wave. In fact, from the 24th of March, we started our work 24th of March 2020, which is when the lockdown was announced. But here we are at the second wave. And as you all know, it's been really, really horrendous. And I immediately started off by forming a team of ASHA Corona warriors. You see them here. They're actually young people from the slums whom ASHA has helped go to university. So we formed a huge team, and in every slum we appointed them, and they have been going from house to house, distributing masks, looking for patients. You see them with a megaphone here, and then, doing SpO2s and, temperature. And they found hundreds of patients, literally hundreds. And I'm quite certain that without the help of these ASHA Corona warriors, we wouldn't have been able to identify even a tenth of the patients that were there, because we're talking about 700,000 people. That's a huge population. And what we really did is divided them into mild, moderate, and severe. And you remember that was the time when there was nothing available in the way of oxygen or beds in the hospitals. So look at this picture. We didn't have any option. So the picture on the left is that of a critically ill patient with a SpO2 of 53, and he was diffused everywhere. So he came to us, and we didn't have oxygen either. So we just nebulized him, and then he turned out to be diabetic. So we put him on insulin, etc. I won't go into the details, but those were the days when we didn't have a single oxygen concentrator, and yet, because of meticulous care, and not just that, but wonderful advice given by Maulanians, which I must mention. Dr. Ashok Mittal, I don't know if you know him. Dr. Rajneesh Kukreja, of course, has a hospital of his own, as you know. Dr. Ajay Karol, Dr. Vishwabandhu Bhasin, who works at Gangaram, is such a senior orthopedic. And then there was Dr. Matthew from St. Stephen's. So all these people came together to give me advice, because we've never done this form of tertiary care before, but we felt we had to do it. Now you look here, there's a oxygen concentrators. Finally they arrived, because there's these wonderful friends of ours from the United Kingdom who are doctors, and they arranged for them to be freighted to us from the UK, and then we were able to provide care to critically ill patients in their homes by the hundreds and hundreds. And I'm just so, grateful to God that we lost one patient only. And that also, he came to us really late, and, he just had a tiny bit of oxygen left in his cylinder, and we couldn't save him. But other than that, I think it's a group effort. I think my Maulanian friends have been really critical to this effort, as have, of course, my friends, worldwide. And I think that, without all of this assistance, we wouldn't have done it. But one of the biggest things was being extremely meticulous, visiting the patient every hour, every couple of hours, to see what was going on. And then we had carers at night in the form of CHVs and volunteers and others who didn't spare anything to save the lives of these patients. And with regards to vaccinations, already that there's a huge vaccine shortage, but we got the entire ASHA team, all the warriors, vaccinated, because we were really keen to continue to help. And so we've got a lot of people vaccinated above 45, but as of now, there's a lot of problems. Our goal and aim is to make sure that every single person under our care, 18 and above, gets vaccinated. When that will happen, I'm not quite sure, but we are completely committed to it. Now, of course, like I said, these are all daily wage earners, and they don't have enough savings, so they run out of savings within about a week or 10 days, and then they have to borrow. They borrow from the grocer, they borrow from relatives, they borrow from loan sharks, and they fall into terrible debt. And some of them have to leave, because if they're on rent and they've stopped working, they can't pay rent. So they've fallen upon terribly hard times. There's so much distress at the moment. There's so much financial stress in the slums. It's really heartbreaking to see. So we have begun the process of providing these grocery bags, as you see in this picture, which contain all the essentials. And 700,000 is obviously a huge population to cover, but we are completely committed to helping them for as long as is necessary until they're able to get back on their feet and start working again. I'm now just going to talk a little bit about the other aspects of the work of ASHA. I'm not going to go into too much detail, because we also need time for questions and answers and so on. But I felt like if I really wanted to have a sustainable program, I would have to address the social determinants of health. There was no way I could have just run a healthcare program the way I just described to you. So on the left, you see this guy. He's actually the slum lord, and these are all his henchmen, who are standing around him, and they exploit and oppress the poor at every twist and turn. And they are really hated by everybody in the slum. They're really feared, but at the same time they're also needed. And they herd slum dwellers to polling booths, to cast votes and things. And so the women, of course, have no voice in the community at all. They used to wear the ghungat the whole time. There was no question of ever removing the ghungat. Even when I would see patients, I would tell them, for God's sake, can you just remove your ghungat? I can't even see your face properly. So this was like the culture in the slums. And I knew that it was time for me to become a champion. It was time for me to become an advocate. Just for me to be a clinician and a doctor of public health was not going to be enough. And it was a really huge leap because, we are not trained for this, right? So, a lot of it was intuitive. A lot of it I learned along the way. But I was able to form these Mahila Mandals. And you see them here. Ye the same policeman who used to put his hand in the pocket of a man and take out whatever money was there and walk away. The same policeman who wouldn't budge till he got a bribe. The same policeman who refused to allow a poor person to even make a home if it fell down in the rain. That same policeman is now, they have relationship with the women, and, they come and help out community members whenever there's a need, because there are so many law and order problems. So the whole idea was to empower women to be able to find their place in the slum, to find their place in the city, and to be able to understand how to work with all the stakeholders. So through my experience, there are many stakeholders for slum development, but I'm only talking about the most important ones. One of them is definitely the police, because if you don't have a good relationship with them, it's really hard to do development, because then they take bribes and then the voices of those who need help are not heard. Then you also have the MLA. So this is the MLA of Maharani Bagh. And also this ITO area. His name is Praveen Kumar. He's from Aam Aadmi Party. So what I've done is I've taught these women to liaise with the MLAs. It doesn't matter what party they are from. In these 33 years, so many people have come and gone. So I've just taught them I've taught them how to understand what the budgets are for water or sanitation, etc. And they then visit these MLAs and put pressure to improve the environment. And over the years, they have dealt with hundreds of MLAs, because so many have come and gone, and not just in the hundreds, but in the thousands. Women have been empowered, so that they can hold their head high and they can bring about change and transformation in their communities through liaising with the right people. They also liaise with the local municipal councillor, because the MLA and the councillor, of course, have different functions. So they're not the same. And so they need to understand, how to liaise with all kinds. And just a quick funny story. I remember when I first took a group of women to meet the slum commissioner, that was like in 1989, they didn't know how to sit on a chair, because there are no chairs in the homes of people, So I had to make them practice, I said, listen, you have to come with me, because these are your problems, not mine. I'm trying to create lots of leaders in the slums. You needn't depend on me. Once you understand how it all works, you'll be able to do it yourself. So I had to practice, with them how to remove the ghungat and talk eye to eye with an official. But it was fantastic, because when they did it the first time, they were empowered, and then they were ready to do it again and again. And look what they've achieved. It's remarkable. I mean, you see the tanker and the crowds and the cans desperate to fill just one can, because there's no water. And over here, you see them all smiling because, they were able to get a tube well for their community through liaising with the local MLA. And so in all the ASHA communities, there are hundreds of, pipe supply, there's tube wells, there are depot hand pumps, all sorts. And look at these dirty, toilets on the left. I mean, who in their right mind would even want to go there? Because there's no ownership. There was no responsibility. There was no citizenship. And over here on the right, you see these beautiful toilet blocks, which the women not only got constructed through the MLA fund, but they also decided to find ways to maintain them. So it's all about empowering. It's all about creating leaders. It's all about creating citizenship. It's all about believing in the great and wonderful potential that people in the slums possess, if only given a chance and if only their capacities are expanded. It's a really big story, but I'm not going to tell you the whole story. It's just very briefly tell you that if you might remember that in 2010, we had the Commonwealth Games. So before that, in 2006, the government came and this arbitrary demolition in one of the slums that I was working in. It was called Token number 8, and it was located in East, you see this big, this road. This is the road that takes you from ITO to East Delhi. And you can see that the slum, you can come, you take the steps and come down. So it's actually on a river bed. And so this and other slums along the road, and ASHA center, this green thing here, it was our center. So one fine morning, without informing anyone, these people had been living here for 30 long years, and their jobs were there, their kids were going to school, they were coming to ASHA for healthcare. I mean, all their links were right there because of the length of time they had stayed. And suddenly there was this demolition. You can see the bulldozers right here. And then you see the fire here, the slum caught fire. The engineer also had a pole fall on him and he died. And there was so many things that happened that time. And then all of these guys went and sat on the main road. You can even see their tents over here. So then I actually went with all these women's groups that I had to meet various officials. I met Sheila Dikshit, I met Dr. Walia, I met Winston John, who was Mrs. Gandhi's right-hand man. In those days, it was Sheila Dikshit's government in Delhi, so those were the people I had to go to. I went to meet Mr. Jagdish Titler, I went to meet Mr. J.P. Agarwal. I mean, I went to everyone I could possibly go to. I said, I can't have them thrown out like this. And it's really long story, which I can't go into, but this is how the colony looks like. I got them a plot of land in a place called Savda Gevra, which is near Rohini. And then I got them loan from a bank. I got a bank branch opened and got them loan to build their own houses. Look at that. Isn't that absolutely fantastic? How you can actually live in so much dignity if only, you're given a helping hand. I started a financial inclusion program around that time, and that was because the Ministry of Finance in the government of India, the central level, was very keen to do a pilot in the slums. So I joined hands with them. Now, before that, of course, like I said, the slum dwellers were taking loans from loan sharks at 120% per annum. Or they would hide their money in their under their mattresses. The women would hide their money because they were too scared to have their man take it away and drink or whatever. So they were completely disempowered financially. They had no financial identity and no financial linkages with slums. I was just listening to Harsh. I didn't realize he was on the board of these banks, but I actually ended up working with all the big public sector banks like State Bank of India, Punjab National Bank, Canara, Vijaya, all these banks. And imagine, without any collaterals, for the first time, they started getting loans for grocery stores, for goods carriers, for education, or expanding businesses. And the repayment rate was like 99%. And the ministry was also so keen and they wanted us to expand. And so we ended up then expanding this entire financial inclusion program and making all the 700,000 slum dwellers what we call bankable and financially included. I'm just going to now talk about the last bit, which is education. And, as I would pass by the slum to go to the clinic, every day I would see sites like these, with little girls, rummaging in garbage for bits of metal, plastic. They would have a magnet in their hands to try and attract anything that was metallic, which they wanted to go and sell. And only about 5% of girls were going to school and about 20% of boys were going to school. Of course, it was very distressed. And so during the mid-90s, I started an education campaign whereby I encouraged, we didn't have a school of our own, but we felt that there were so many good state schools around. It's just that they weren't going for a variety of reasons. So I began to encourage the women of the Mahila Mandal and, the various volunteers and the families. And we had this huge movement of primary and secondary education for slum children that lasted for about 5 to 7 years. And it was, so many children. You see these beautiful girls, they look so sweet. And, you see them even behind them, all going to school. And that gave me a lot of joy when I could rescue them from child labor and send them to school. And after school hours, I was not satisfied with having them just go back home to their slum hut. So I created an environment center for them where they could come after school hours, take responsibility. So I formed Bal Mandals, and you see on the left, this is a Bal Mandal group, and this is their president. So the idea was for them also at a young age to promote health, to be able to promote education, to get other kids admitted, to become good citizens, to learn all these lessons at a very early age, because it's a little hard to train people when they're much older, but the young kids are so much more impressionable. And instead of the kids going out and getting into drugs and getting into other violent behavior, they used to come running to the center. They couldn't wait. They were just had to leave their bags and come running because there's such excitement, so many wonderful things going on. And then I also felt I should show them and teach them, what it's like to be a person of a really strong character. All our schools don't teach us these things. And so you see this lovely group of children bringing this elderly woman to the geriatric clinic because she can't really walk on her own. So it's all about being generous, so I taught them to be generous. I said, you really, do not have to think that you have nothing to give. You have a lot to give, and generosity is going to really give you a great sense of reward. I also taught them to be grateful rather than be entitled, because it's a very common phenomenon among the poor to feel entitled all the time because they're given all these promises, which of course are never kept. And then I started having IT labs because, our students started going to university, and during this entire pandemic, it's been horrendous, as you know, with everything online, and hardly 10% of the families had phones. And imagine that smartphone is also being shared by the whole family, So the whole family, sometimes it's the mother or the father and the child, and they're all snatching the phone from one another. How can a child even study like that? So I felt like, I've got all these great dreams for these children. I must set up IT labs. So this one was inaugurated by the present Australian High Commissioner of India, Barry O'Farrell. This was the story that Harsh was talking about. So I've been able to send 3,500 wonderful kids to Delhi University. You must have done your pre-med from all these colleges, Deshbandhu and Miranda and BR and, Shamlal College and Zakir Hussain. So, basically they're all over the place. There's not a single DU college where you won't find an ASHA group studying over there. And of course, ASHA takes care of all their expenses because it's not affordable for them. And then we come to the international education part because, I felt like, oh my God, look at these kids. I've been able to send such a huge number to Delhi University and they're studying every subject under the sun. Why can't I think of sending them to another country to study? So I started having links with University of Melbourne. And this boy, you can see he studied at Galgotia College of Engineering, comes from a very poor family. His mother is a housemaid and father is not doing anything because he was jobless. And so I picked him up anyway. To cut a long story short, he went to the University of Melbourne, did his master's in computer science there on a full scholarship, lived at Trinity College, which is one of the finest colleges to live in. And he now works for Macquarie, which is the largest investment bank in the whole of Australia. This is another kid, Chandan. This is one that, I think Harsh was referring to. So I picked him up when he was very young and he wanted to do maths honors. So he did maths honors at Venkateshwar College. And then he got this most prestigious and amazing Chevening Scholarship. And that is from the British government. And then, he then went to Imperial College London and he did his master's in mathematics there. And now he's headed to do his PhD at the University of Melbourne. I can hardly believe it. When you see these kids coming from so much poverty, they make me so proud. This is our internship program where, the kids learn professionalism, a work ethic, get an exposure to a whole different world. This is Harinder Sidhu, who's the Australian High Commissioner to India. This is Rod Hilton, the deputy. And, it's just one example of how students intern at embassies, at high commissions, at big multinationals, all over the city. They get these wonderful internship opportunities. And then, of course, we want them to get the best of jobs. We want them to get decent work. We want them to find their place in the city. We want them to hold their heads high. We want them to understand that their worth is the same as that of anyone else's, that, the value, the dignity that they possess is the same as that of anybody else. And therefore we go like, why should we settle for, jobs that their parents have always done? We must try to pull them up and find white collar jobs for them as well. Let it be a good mixture. So you can see how this guy used to pick up lights, chadi ki jo hoti hai, lights. And now he's working for actually now works for Rio Tinto. So, Wipro, nurses, I won't go into it, but like there's lots of students out there working in lots of, multinationals and, wonderful places of work. Now, this is just a quick, I won't go into too much detail. I haven't brought all the indicators up, but, just to show you how the antenatal coverage at ASHA is 100%, births attended by skilled health personnel is 99%, postnatal care after 2 days of delivery is 99%. We haven't had a maternal death in years now. An early initiation of breastfeeding, 3 doses of DPT, vitamin A supplementation, most of our children are healthy. But now this figure would have changed because of COVID. So some gains have been reversed because of COVID. The infant mortality and the under 5 mortality rates are, from 100, and I told you it was 100 and 150, and this is where we brought them at this point. And just to say that, we are very much in sync with the Millennium Development Goals, and that these are all the different goals, sorry, not the Millennium, the Sustainable Development Goals that were announced by the United Nations in 2015. And you see, as you can see, we are cross-cutting a very large number of goals. This is Prince Edward. He inaugurated our 30th anniversary. Theresa May, as Harsh mentioned, Julia Gillard, and this is the Prime Minister of Denmark. Now, the reason why I put up these pictures is only to emphasize that a lot of people are extremely interested in this model because of its sustainable nature, and because there are urban poor everywhere in the world. So people really wanted to understand what the various strategies are ASHA's using, how are we addressing the whole issue of urban poverty, and how are we, converting these terrible slums into decent urban settlements. And so those were some of the reasons why these people came to see ASHA. These are some of our links in the United States. This is Congressman Jim McDermott from Seattle. I think he's not the congressman from Seattle anymore, but he invited me to give a talk, and Luann went through some of that. And this is Congressman Mike Thompson. We have an annual event at Napa, and this is Ashish Jha, whom you all may have seen on television quite a lot. He came to ASHA and spent time seeing the work. This is Dr. Nalini Prasad in Sacramento. They have an ASHA event every year. So these are just a few glimpses of the US involvement, and we've received a great amount of help and goodwill from Mr. Advani. Of course, now he's very old, but when he wasn't in those days, even when he was the Deputy Prime Minister, he really helped us a lot. And Dr. Harshvardhan, of course, we've known from years. That was when he was an MLA of Krishnanagar. That's the relationship goes back that far. And then there are these 4 friends of ASHA in 4 different countries, Australia, Great Britain, USA, and Ireland. And I'll leave it to Luann to talk about ASHA USA, but they're all independently registered bodies, and they're run completely voluntarily by the people who live in those countries. This is just to wind up by telling you that, we have a great emphasis on communal harmony. So we want to break down caste barriers. You won't believe that there might be a Brahmin and an untouchable living in the same slum and refusing to fill water from the same water pump. The idea is to break down caste barriers, to break down religious barriers, and to have that wonderful spirit of harmony and sisterhood and brotherhood. And I think eating together is one of the most powerful ways, that can be developed. And of course, there are many other ways in which we continue to foster activities like these and activities that promote the ASHA values. I won't dwell on this. You all have been told about the Padma Shri Award. And then, before I even talk about, donations, I just want to say that, I just want to say such a huge thank you to Anoop and to all of you who were on the group. for COVID, for having made such a generous donation to ASHA without even ever having heard me or heard about my. I know, of course, Harsh's word was, for you enough, and you trust him so much, which is, so wonderful to see that the relationships that you've had with him mean that anything he mentions, you know that it's coming from a good place. And so my deepest thanks to you, but I hope we can continue to do more. I mean, it's not just the money, but it's just the joy of pursuing a vision together for a city that we all love, for a city that has given us a lot. So, if you go to the ASHA homepage, you'll see a donation button. When you click on the donation button, it will show you all these flags. And then depending on whichever country you belong to, you click on the flag, and then it's all quite easy from there. ASHA USA, I'm going to skip because Luann's coming on. ASHA India, if you want to just take a quick, photo or screenshot or something, if you want to do that, you're most welcome. Otherwise, you will find the same information if you click on the flag. And then we have the Friends of ASHA in Great Britain. Anup mentioned, I wasn't going to put this up, but Anup mentioned that there might well be some people who live in the United Kingdom and are also part of your group. So, there are plenty of opportunities for you in Great Britain to connect with the group there, because they do all sorts of activities for ASHA. And then there's Ireland. So if there's doctors in Ireland and you want to get in touch, you are most certainly welcome to get in touch with the ASHA, Friends of ASHA in Ireland. And other countries is the last one. So here I'm going to end my presentation with a very big thanks to you for, patiently listening to me and for the interest that you've shown in my work. Thank you. And yes, I need to now introduce Luann. She's the treasurer of ASHA USA. I suddenly realized, yes, I have to introduce her. She's been with ASHA for years and years. For ASHA USA, she's been here many times. Her husband is the dean of Harvard Divinity School at Harvard. And together they have been my companions on this journey. And Luann has been doing a lot of hard work, being the treasurer on a completely voluntary basis and helping channelize, hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years from ASHA. So Luann, with this introduction, and just to say that you're one of my finest friends, I'd like to give over to you.
So thank you, Kiran. Can you hear me? Thank you, Kiran, and thank you everyone for all that you have done. We are just delighted to have this new connection and that we will be able to work together on this project that all of us actually believe so much in. My own background is I'm a social worker from Belfast in Northern Ireland. I worked for 25 years there during the Troubles, so I have quite an experience of working across health and social services, developing services for people who are suffering in many ways and where there are many problems. And that was part of what drew me to Kiran and also to ASHA, just that background of looking at need and looking at what an integrated way of going about addressing very complicated problems. You can learn from that. I came here in 1998 to the United States and was actually introduced to Kiran through a friend in Ireland who was involved with Friends of ASHA. And that our friendship has been developed since then, and we have watched as ASHA has grown over the years. We have watched some of these young people from their children just developing over the years, and that has been a thrill for us. In terms of friends, all of the friends groups, the word I would really like to just underline is the word friends. We genuinely are all friends. We are not just people who raise money, but we are people whose lives have become involved with ASHA India. It's a reciprocal relationship. It's a respectful relationship. It's a relationship of equals. Anything that we have done in any of the countries in either Britain, Australia, India or here is any resources that we have actually given, we have got more back through that relationship. We have watched people's lives grow. We have seen the children just thrive. We have seen them as they have gone through the children's groups, their education, going to university, which nobody ever thought was going to be possible, thrive in university. And most importantly, I think we have seen and watched over the last year during COVID, just how they have come back and what they have given in their communities. And I must say, I have found it very hard not to compare watching those young people in the Delhi slums and how committed and selflessly they have given, compared with some of the issues that we have dealt with even here in the States. Their work has been remarkable. Their commitment to going in, even at times when they weren't vaccinated, has been something unbelievable to watch, and we have learned so much from them and feel so humbled as to all the lessons that they have taught us. In terms of Friends of ASHA America, we are a small group of people. We've got a small board which consists of Kiran, 2 other medical doctors, and a retired professor of physiotherapy, and myself. We have a turnover of around 200,000 each year. Everything we do is voluntary. The only other outgoings that come from the money that comes in is in the most basic of administration costs that we have to run. Most of us have been to ASHA, have met people. The key even in involvement here has been that we are all people that are just committed and that feel part of this whole greater experience with ASHA Delhi, and everybody who is involved is made to feel part of it. It's not just a big organization that money goes to, but that's something that we feel we're all part of. So during the last COVID, or this whole COVID outbreak, we felt that our giving was actually going to the ground, to people that we knew and to work that we knew that was being done, and that we were all very much part of that. And we hope that you too will be able to experience some of that joy that we have had in working with Delhi. In terms of giving, Kiran, maybe if you put up the slide.
Yeah, definitely.
If I talk to it in the meantime while this is coming up, there are 2 ways of giving to us, by going either by sending a check, which can be sent to our headquarters at 50 Notre Dame Avenue in Cambridge, or by going on the web and clicking on the America button, and then giving by credit card. Can I just say, because I know
something's gone wrong, I don't know.
Okay.
One second, I found it up on.
Okay, thank you. So we can either give by check, by making it payable, or by going on the ASHA website, asha-india.org, and clicking on the USA button, and then credit card donations can be made. They can either be given on a one-off basis or they can be given recurrently. Now, I know a lot of people have some concerns about giving to anything online. So can I just say that the platform that we use is a program called Donor Perfect, which is internationally recognized, and that any donations go then through a safe save system, which is an encrypted system, which is fully compliant with all the PCI safety guidelines. One-off donations, the credit card information is not retained. For recurrent donations, that is maintained in a safe vault system, again encrypted, and so there is no access to that. the reason that we're very keen in using that system is that it also maintains our database of names and our donor list. And because we're a very small organization, we like to have a very accurate database system that we can work to. So that's great. Thanks, Kiran. Can I go back to, can I also mention finally, one thing that people may be interested in is this here. This is the Hope and Spice cookbook, which was produced by one of our friends of ASHA UK, who went and worked with some of the women and some of the young students in the slums and produced this cookbook, including with a recipe from Kiran. It's a wonderful cookbook to start with because the recipes are fantastic, but it also tells the story of each of the people who gave the recipe. And it's a wonderful way to see the partnership and what all of us have got and the joy of just sharing food and sharing a meal. And this has not only given us joy, but is really, I think, just illustrates what that relationship is between ASHA Delhi and ASHA Friends of around the world. If anyone's interested in this, you can get it online by going to Hope and Spice -USA. Kiran, have you got that slide?
Yeah.
Because one of the things that we do feel is that if we can just share a meal together, it brings us all together, and it is so important. So if anybody at all is interested in the book, I would go to Hope and Spice -USA. So thank you. I mean, I'm happy to take questions. I just want to finish by saying my relationship with Kiran and with ASHA Delhi has been one of the most rewarding, enriching, and humbling and inspiring relationships I've ever had. So thank you. Thank you, Kiran.
Thanks, Luann. I think if there are any questions, I'm sure there might be. If you could, the participants, the audience could, or any comments could go either come up in person by putting up the hand emoji, or just type it into Q&A. There is a question.
Yeah, do feel free to type your questions on Q&A, or you might want to just raise your hand, and either Luann or I will be more than happy to answer.
There is a question from Shishma Batra.
Mm-hmm.
Prashant,
is it on Q&A? Because I can't see it on Q&A. Or you can read it out if you can see it.
I think there's a hand emoji there. There are a lot of appreciation, sort of comments, which I'll come to. I'm just trying to see if we can get. Can Sushma Batra speak, please?
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, hi Kiran. This is Vinod Batra. I used to be registrar in 1982, and I think I know you because we have worked together. You were an intern in those days, and I remember you very well. Maybe you can also recall. You see, I'm just surprised. I have known you as a young doctor wearing denims, I still remember. And how this changed from that denim-clad young girl that I remember into somebody who has dwarfed us. You know, you have dwarfed all of us. Everybody, you know, we may have been whatever, and then there are so many people who must have worked. How did this change occur, this spark? How did it happen? I just want to know that.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. I think that we, like Luann said, you know, I started off with a vision, but along this journey, I kept meeting lots of wonderful companions who, you know, joined me, and among whom, of course, there are a lot of Melanians and lots of other people from different parts of the world. But, you know, when I was in med school itself, I always used to wonder, you know, what goes on in slums. I'd never been in one because we mostly don't ever go. So I think it was just a very, you know, strong pull within me, and I just walked into a slum for the first time and was really shocked at what I saw, because I'd never been inside, you know, and I had absolutely no intention of having this organization that you see in this shape. I just thought I would go there as a clinician and help people with healthcare. But the organization and the various interventions kept evolving with time, because, you know, I did not read public health or urban development, you know, so I just found that I kept responding to the felt needs, and I found people who were willing to come alongside me and be interested in my work. And I think I just, at a certain point, I just felt like I have to be a champion for these folks. I have to become a real advocate for these folks, and I'm not going to be content with just being a clinician. So that shift took place at a certain point, and then, you know, from then on, I didn't look back. And I do have to say that it hasn't been easy, because there are lots of interventions I made for which there was no training given to us as clinicians. So I learned along the way, and I think the slum dwellers have taught me the most. They have been my finest friends, you know, and I think that as I've, you know, been willing and open to listen to their points of view and sit with them as a brother and a sister and an equal, my eyes have been open to see what I can do for them and with them. So whatever has happened, you know, over 33 long years, and I myself have been taken by surprise at some of the milestones I never thought would ever be seen by me.
There is a next question by Dr. Arun Umat from Louisville, Kentucky. Can somebody put Dr. Umat on the screen?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kiran, thank you very much. It really brought tears to my eyes. I'm much older than you are. I graduated from Maulana Azad long time before you ever thought of going to med school. But it's really great what you have done. And as somebody said on this forum, ma'am, say COVID, that it's easy to write a check. But what can a person like me, when I visit India, and Delhi being my hometown, and I have family that I live with, I would like to do something worthwhile as a physician, because that's the only thing I know. Could you tell me something?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a, you know, we've got lots of opportunities for physicians to come and volunteer. You know, of course, this is COVID, and, you know, so all our energies are focused only on COVID, because we are still battling the disease, as you know. But, you know, in all probability, these times will be behind us. And once they are, then you would be very warmly welcome to volunteer. You know, we've got so many patients with so many different categories of needs. You could help us with our chronic disease management clinics. You could help us with our our geriatric clinics. You could see general patients. You know, there's a ton of work. And of course, all of these different clinics that are run in the different slums are, you know, we don't charge our patients anything. So they greatly appreciate the assistance of experts like you. So, you know, just let me know when you're ready, and we'll draw out a schedule for you.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you for the great work you have done.
Thank you so much.
Next question is from Dr. Radhika from India.
Yeah, hello everybody. Dr. Kiran, I am really impressed. I was in the batch 1982 and at Maulana Azad did my PG from Safdarjung. And I'm working at UCMS GTB since 1993, the Department of Obs and Gynae.
Oh.
So I know Dr. Vivek Jolly very well. And I really wasn't aware of your work. So I was wondering how is it can I join you? This has been something that was very close to my heart. I was wanting to actually do some good to the society. Of course, as our hospital caters to a lot of population from East Delhi, which has the densest population in Delhi, and also from Western UP. So we are working very hard. But the kind of work that you have done, because I might have seen a lot of patients, I don't have their entire life sketch in front of me, the way you have shown. So I just wanted to join you. So
Thank
how
you
can
so much, Dr. Radhika, for saying that. I mean, I'm sure that tomorrow morning, if you decide to meet Jolly, you'll have a lot to talk about because she has what's going on. And I keep sending lots and lots of patients to GTB from East Delhi in particular, like you mentioned, and they really provide, she and her husband provide very compassionate and meticulous care. And of course, we would love to have you on board. And for us to be able to work together to send you patients, and if you wish to come in, I mean, Jolly's of course been to ASHA, she knows all about it, she's visited us. But if you want to come and do a visit, a site visit, that way you'll see firsthand, what's going on, and then there will be a host of opportunities that will open up once we start talking.
Right. So how can I get in touch with you? So either I'll then I'll speak to Dr. Jolly, and then.
She'll be the best person. She has all my contact details, and you can also go to the website, like I said, and you can go to the website and all the contact. I mean, everything is there.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll get in touch with you.
Next question is from Dr. Rajat Kumar.
Hi, Kiran.
Hi, Rajat. I'm so pleased to see you. I mean, hear you rather.
And here's your classmate, Alka, would like to say hello.
Hi, Kiran.
Hi, Alka. I mean, this is like surreal, right? Who would have imagined that something like this would ever happen?
No, your work, I know, has always been so powerful and moving, impressive. So congratulations.
So I have one question, which apparently is not relevant with ASHA, but we were trying to donate to a school, and they said you cannot easily transfer funds from abroad, outside India, because of new restrictions. So they were saying it's better if you can transfer from an Indian bank. So and obviously you've overcome that barrier. So can you just confirm it, and how did you manage it? That's question one. I have one more after that.
Okay, let me address the first one. First of all, just for those who might not be aware, but I've known Alka since we were, Rajat's wife Alka, since we were 11. We were in school together and we were the best of friends. And so I actually know her longer than you, Rajat. You'll have to admit to that.
I know.
So then, and then of course, I got to know Rajat, who's a wonderful, hematologist, and I know he's now in Canada, and many of you know him. And so in answer to your first question, you need an FCRA. That is the main thing. The receiving organization requires an FCRA. Now, the FCRA might be a permanent one, which has to just be renewed every year, which is what we have. Or if they don't have a permanent one, then then they have to ask for prior permission for every grant that the organization receives. And it is quite a pain. It's not an easy thing to do. So, I mean, and also, there is no way that somebody sitting in Canada can actually send money to an FCRA organization, say, for example, ASHA, to be given to someone else, because that would be seen as ASHA being a conduit. And that is completely not allowed in FCRA rules. No Indian organization having FCRA can simply act as a conduit. So the only way to really donate to an organization in India would be either that you have an Indian account in Indian rupees, in which case it would not be a problem at all, because they would be perfectly, within their rights to receive that money. But if you want to donate in dollars or any other foreign currency, it'll have to be to an FCRA registered organization, or an organization, say you want to give $10,000 and they don't have a permanent FCRA, they will have to approach the Home Ministry and ask for special permission. And then if they get it, then that money can be sent.
Okay, thank you. That is very useful. And obviously you've done your homework well. So we are all very comfortable using the route from outside. The second question is just a comment. I know you have helped some of our batchmates' kids, who are medical students, to work in your organization and volunteer. And maybe you can expand on that, because there's a whole generation, a new generation, who want to go to India, don't know how to work, and you are affording that opportunity. I know you do it, and I'm sure you're doing it even now.
Yes, absolutely. This pandemic came in between, but before that, ASHA does receive volunteers from all walks of life, because we have so many areas of intervention. And yes, I've had the great joy of receiving the kids of many Molanians. Many of them aspire to do medicine, and they come there to ASHA. They shadow our doctors, they shadow our CHVs, they look at our primary care, secondary care, and all that. And then they also get a really good understanding of sustainable urban health, what it looks like, in urban settlements. And then that often fuels their desires for the future, in what areas of, service they want to get involved in. So, and then of course, it's great for their application, so that of course is something that I can always do. I would love to do, because why not give our children the finest of opportunities, and why not help them to see, and not just that, but to enter an area where there's so much hope, and there's so much, in the way of transformation that they can see, that they're not going into an environment where it's only despair and, darkness. I mean, they're going into an environment filled with love and light. So I think for them to come to ASHA, that those doors will always be open to them. They could be, in class 11 or 12. They could be med students who want to take a summer out. They could be gap year students. I know the gap year concept is very common in the UK. So, at any level. I mean, I've actually even had entire families come and volunteer at ASHA. I've even had like a 5-year-old child come and volunteer with her mother, so, and I've even had an 85-year-old man come and volunteer. So there really is, a whole range, and we've got it all set up. If you go to the website, you'll see there's a volunteer section, there's a form, you fill it up, you get responses, and then there's a volunteer pack that is sent, the do's and don'ts are all there in that. So it's like a professionally set up program for volunteers of all ages. And needless to say that if there are any of my batchmates who want to get involved, I would obviously take a personal interest, because, I feel close to my batchmates.
Thank you so much.
Next question is from Dr. Dharmendra Diwan from India.
Hello, Kiran. Good evening, Dr. Diwan. I do not know whether you recall, I belong to the same batch as Dr. Rajat, who has just spoken, 1972 batch. And Kiran, I retired as Director Family Welfare Delhi, and I remember early 2000, when your NGO ASHA in RK Puram, some of our district health authorities were interacting with you at that time, specifically in relation to reproductive child health, maternal health, infant health, neonatal health, and nutrition also. And I'm sure the work that you have been doing, you just explained, it's marvelous. It is really a path-breaking journey that you have undertaken over the last 30 years. Commendable. In fact, I offer my services to you after retirement. In case in any way you want that I could be of any help, I will be more than happy to be associated with your organization. That's the only comment that I will like. And then specifically the IMR and MMR, because Delhi has seen a lot of improvement in terms of IMR, MMR. But when it comes to slums, when you desegregate IMR and MMR, in these slums, it is the biggest challenge, It is the highest in the slums. And you mentioned 100 IMR and 700 MMR at that time when you started your journey, and marked reduction now. It is almost, 20, less than 20 is IMR of Delhi, 18 or 15, and about 100 of MMR. So in whatever capacity that you think I could be of any help, I will be more than happy. I'll get in touch with you.
Thank you so much. That's really kind of you to say. And I do, I've had numerous collaborations with the government of Delhi and the various departments, be it DOTS, be it Pulse Polio, be it Safe Motherhood. We've done a lot of work together. And so it's really nice to meet somebody, during those years,
I headed a polio program for Delhi. The house-to-house activity in Delhi was started by me in the year 2000. And that decentralized planning process was all conceptualized at that time. The house-to-house teams, that was the basic time, and that actually made a difference. And your NGO definitely participated immensely at that time in that area of Arkepuram and South Delhi. Yeah, please carry on.
Okay. Can somebody put Dr. Amit Chakrabarti he's the current secretary of API, American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, if he can say a word. Dr. Amit, go ahead.
Just a second.
His mic is on mute. All right.
Just trying. Hello?
Yeah, Amit, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we all can hear you.
It was wonderful. The initiatives which you portrayed, it's great. I'm so honored that Ashokji, Anupji invited me to attend, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of API. Anything which we can do to help or to partner with, we'll be glad to do that. I don't know whether Anupama or Suresh are on the line here or not. I cannot see them.
Yes, they are. They are.
Yeah. Okay. So they are the people. Anupama is the incoming president, and she is the person who will be making decisions on API next year. And I'm sure that we should be able to coordinate and help the efforts.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, Amit, you have done a great job sending ventilators and oxygen equipment. I think India's need is at the point of care. Point of care is in the region of urban poor, or you can call them slums. Okay, we have urban poor in America, we have urban poor in India and all over the world. So I personally think, Amit, the efforts with API has humongous endowments, okay? So projects like Dr. Kiran Martin do deserve some attention from API. And I will also request Dr. Kiran Martin to identify and recommend to us, at least in 6 other major cities of India, like Hyderabad, Mumbai, Calcutta, the organizations who do equivalent work like Dr. Martin, so that API can put their monies to good use.
For Bangla, I can tell you that right now I was on the other, which I just finished another conference with an organization called Bangla Worldwide, and we are entrusting them to the. I gave you some updates about the co-ventilators which are going out, and we are entrusting them to be the local partner in distribution for within Bengal. Similarly, we contacted the nodal officer of Odisha. We are doing it in Delhi. So if you want to get anybody from Bengal, a local group is Bangla Worldwide, and I can put you in touch with their main guys who can coordinate your efforts in Bengal.
Well, we have one person on this panel right now who is listening. His name is Dr. Kishore Gandhi. And Dr. Kishore Gandhi, next, please. He's from Kolkata.
Hello. Can you listen to me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Yes, Dr. Kiran, excellent presentation, and what exemplary work you do. It's a big inspiration for all of us. And first of all, I stay in Calcutta. I am also there with a social work called Matrishanga Janakalyana Ashram. Here we basically run OPDs and schools, and we give free distribution of medicines and OPDs. Plus, we run the schools, we run free of cost. and around 1,500 students are getting scholarship. Every year we pay them directly to the school, and we have an outdoor for geriatrics and cardiology, and but although we do not have a hospital setup, but basic investigations and everything are being done. Right now, like we had a very bad cyclone, so we are basically distributing food, clothes, medicines, and everything to different areas. I have the few photographs and pictures I would share. Actually, I never thought of that I would be sharing, but I'll pass on to Anup. And Anup has been a great help to all of us. He is the person who has, in fact, united us as a MAMSI group, and he is the one who has introduced us to MAMSI Global Group. And it's so wonderful to be there with you. Where in case if you have any anything that I can do from this side, please let me know. And my number and everything is there. In case it is required again, I'll pass on to you. And from Delhi side, no doubt, whenever I do come over, I definitely like to come over and see you and like to visit ASHA. Yeah. Another important thing here, we go to the villages, and we cater a lot of small villages, and every Sunday we go there, we see around 200 to 300 patients, give them free medicines, free vaccinations, and this is all only by donation, not any much of help from government. But still, we are surviving, and it's because of people like you are there in Calcutta. They are helping us, and I hope your help will be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Thank you, Anup. Thank you, Dr. Kiran.
Kishore, do post the link and some pictures on the global group, and we'll connect you with other people. You know.
Sure.
Okay. Next in line, Dr. Neera Ummat. Would you like to say a word? Dr. Neera Ummat from Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes. Anup, thank you so much. Dr. Martin, it is a pleasure, indeed a pleasure to see what you've done in after graduating from college. It is unbelievable that there are actually people like that exist in this world. I am absolutely floored. I am so happy that I can call you a fellow Milanian. I wish I had thought of what you did. It's really, what you've done is a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Dr. Neera Ummat is from 1968 batch, Dr. Martin. So, okay, next is Dr. Padmani, who's doing a similar thing in Chennai. Dr. Padmani, please.
Dr. Padmani, you're on mute.
Dr. Padmani, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please? Prashant, can you unmute her? I think we are running into technical glitches with Dr. Padmani. She just launched an app. Dr. Padmani is from Stanford, California. She's a neurologist and has chosen to go and work in Chennai and start a mission. I wish Dr. Padmani can unmute herself.
She's not.
Okay. Yeah, Sudhir, she's still on mute, as I see.
No, she's not. Maybe something at her end.
Can you hear us, Dr. Padmini?
She's on mute. We can't
Yeah.
hear her.
Can Prashant unmute her?
She's not on mute.
We see when we see her screen, it shows that she's on mute.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here also.
We'll take it out once again. We can only request to unmute, but can't.
Okay, let's keep on moving. Dr. Rajiv Anand from New Delhi, India. Would you like to say a word, Dr. Rajiv Anand?
It's been a exposure to something which you don't even imagine, but I congratulate Dr. Kiran. And as everybody has said, we are floored by whatever we have witnessed. And of course, I am still based in Delhi, so I'll see how I connect with the organization in future. And congratulations for having organized such a webinar and exposing us to something which all of us can contribute and be part of the journey which is continuous. Thank you.
Dr. Rajiv Anand is from MAMC 1973 batch. Okay, next in line is Dr. Ashok Vaid. Dr. Ashok Vaid from New Delhi, India. He's on mute.
I have unmuted myself.
Yes, Dr. Ashok Vaid, please go ahead.
Anup, I am so proud of young millennials. I wish they were from my side, my age group also. But then we are proud of our youngsters that they have taken the legacy of MAMC to higher levels. Good work from Dr. Kiran Martin. There are others also like Dr. Samlok and Shama Matre. They are doing great work for social upliftment. And I must thank you and congratulate you that you have been a pivot to join all of us together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
we have
I am an old man now. I would like to go and meet Dr. Kiran. I am in Delhi, no problems. And I will do whatever I can do for her. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vaid. Thank you so much. We have amongst us Dr. Ajay Kumar Shukla from MAMC 1980. He is an ophthalmologist, professor of ophthalmology in Wardha, Maharashtra. Dr. Ajay Shukla, would you like to say a word or so?
Thanks, Anup. It's been a privilege to listen to the astounding work which Dr. Kiran has been doing in Delhi, though I've been out of Delhi for almost 30 years now, but I keep visiting, and the work which he has showcased is something which we need to do in other cities as well.
Yes.
Being an ophthalmologist, I can correlate with the Dr. Jolly and Dr. Vivek, who have been doing and associating with work of ASHA in Delhi. But this is a work which needs to be replicated. This is a model which has to be replicated in the other large metros of India as well. So what Anup has rightly said, that we have to take her guidance in identifying certain other organizations in the other big cities which can seek or which can be worthy of attention from the RP physicians for doing the work in India. Thank you, Anup. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Ajay. Well, API is on board. Dr. Anupma had to go and do a case in the OR. Otherwise, she would have spoken. She sent me a personal text. I'm just replicating her words. She's absolutely floored. Like, Anupma herself is a very committed person. She's the incoming president of API, starting on July 4th, American Independence Day. And I know what she does in India. And we are looking forward to significant contributions from API going forward. And she says, now I know what I need to do. I'm just reading her post, She says, I know what to do. Thank you. All right. Moving on, we have Dr. V.K. Sharma, Medical Superintendent of Lady Hardinge Medical College, Delhi. Dr. Sharma, would you like to say a word? He's on mute. Dr. Sharma is still on mute. All right. Now, let's take it to Dr. Sandeep Sindhu. He is a ENT physician in Apollo, Delhi. He's deeply involved in a lot of charitable work in Delhi. Dr. Sindhu, would you like to say a word to us?
It's been a real privilege to hear her. Actually, I am involved with the Satyasai Center in Lodi Colony, where we are doing charitable clinic there. But that is just a small clinic. But when you see what she's been able to achieve, it's tremendous. I mean, it's such a proud privilege to have a Mulanian who's doing such great work. And I'm sure, I think we will in future get in touch with her to see what we can do to help her out in whatever capabilities we are. Best of luck, and let's see for the future.
Thank you so much. I really do look forward to the possibility of us working together and for us to be able to refer patients to you that badly need your services.
Well, now we know where the point of care has to be directed. The point of care is not just limited to hospitals. The point of care is where majority of the disadvantaged people live, whether it's Delhi, Calcutta, Chennai, Hyderabad, you name it, Mumbai, Next in line, I see Dr. Rajiv Thakur. Would you like to say a word? Dr. Rajiv Thakur is on mute.
Hello.
Yes, Dr. Thakur, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran. I'm also very floored, and you are really an angel. That's what I would like to say. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Then we have Dr. Davinder from Delhi, India. Dr. Davinder, you are on mute. Dr. Davinder, can you hear us? You are on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I'm same as Rajat Patch again, and it was a pleasure listening to Dr. Kiran. And maybe once the COVID is over, as now a pediatrician and now doing not much of active work, so I have time and I'll get associated with you as soon as we have little time. Congratulations. And as everybody has said, we are really floored by your presentation and the kind of work which you're doing. God bless you.
So much. Thank you so much for saying that.
Next in line, we have a person who identifies himself as leading by living. Leading by, I do not know the name. Can Leading by Living first introduce his or her name and then say a word, please? Hello? Leading by Living. I do not know. Then we have in line Dr. Anil Jain from Delhi. Dr. Anil Jain. Dr. Anil Jain, can you hear us? Can you say a word?
Thank you, sir, for everything. Really, are you listening to me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, it was quite surprising for me living in Delhi. I was not knowing about this.
Yes, it was for lots of people, I'm sure.
Organization. Thanks a lot, Dr. Kiran.
Then we have Dr. Jigmini Santosh. Dr. Santosh, can you tell us where are you from? Dr. Santosh is on mute still. Dr. Santosh, can you hear us? Dr. Santosh, can you hear us, please? All right. Does anyone have any questions? They can raise their hands. If not, then I would like to say a thank you note to all the participants. So it's been a pleasure, Dr. Martin, to rediscover you. For that, I have to say lot of thanks to Dr. Harsh Mahajan. Can't thank him enough, simply cannot thank him enough. And of course, you need no introduction going forward in America. We'll take your mission to the next step. And now, since API is on board, the parent organization of 80,000 doctors of Indian origin in America, let's see what we can do. My thanks to Mr. Sudhir Mathur of MeraDoc and Prashant, who have made this possible. And I'm very thankful to the participants who took this Sunday evening to come and watch this thing. And it's all being recorded. We've posted everywhere. My special thanks to Luan. She explained it so nicely and so easily. We will also promote the website of ASHA USA across all the groups of Maulana Azad. So with this, thank you so much, Dr. Martin, for educating us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a tremendous pleasure to get to know you all.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Thank you.
This is the end of the webinar. We plan to do one like this with Dr. Samlok in the coming weeks, who is serving the poor in outskirts of Himachal. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luan.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you, Sudhir ji. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.